You ever watch the world tilt for a second, like reality itself just blinked and forgot its place? Yeah, that split second when every suit, every boardroom, every titan of the game just stares at you, and nothing moves. Their eyes go wide, their smiles freeze, their power feels hollow. You did something that the system didn't see coming, something so sharp it cut through the smoke and mirrors, shook the foundations, and left the big players standing there, blank, stunned, helpless, like the universe itself just whispered, "Not today, not like this. Break the rules that everyone else worships." Oh, don't you see how beautiful it is when they cling to their little manuals, their contracts, their boardroom ethics like their sacred scriptures, like following the lines will protect them from the storm you're about to unleash. They've been trained to obey, to move in neat little predictable patterns, to stay inside the maze someone else built and call it safety. But you step in, and suddenly the whole illusion trembles. You don't need their consent, their approval, their permission to do what must be done. While they're busy measuring their little boxes, you're rewriting the rules right under their noses. And it's intoxicating, isn't it? That moment when the pattern breaks, and you realize they have no idea what hit them, no idea that the world you're painting is entirely yours. They've built their towers on the assumption that everyone will play by their rules. And then you come along, laughing quietly in the shadows, and dismantle it with a flick of your finger. They call it rebellion. You call it clarity. Every rule they worship, every must they follow, is just a string you can pull to see them dance like puppets. But you don't stop at pulling. Oh no. You twist, you bend, you reshape the strings until the whole puppet show looks like anarchy. And it's glorious because it's real, because it's raw, because it's the truth of power that they refuse to admit. People fear what they cannot control, what doesn't fit in their neat little boxes. And rules are their cages, their chains, their comfort blankets, and you. You are the fire that melts the chains and sets the blanket ablaze. And it's not enough to just step outside the rules. They must watch, helpless, as the world bends differently, as the lines they hold so sacred crumble into a new shape that only you understand. There's a beauty in breaking their faith in order, a poetry in smashing the expectations that have paralyzed them for years. They think safety is compliance, that power comes from obedience, that progress comes from consensus, and you know that truth is uglier, messier, and far more delicious. It's the crack in the system, the hiccup in the perfect machine, the pulse of chaos that beats louder than their endless meetings, their calculations, their spreadsheets of control. You step forward and suddenly, the world is fluid, unstable, alive, and they are terrified because they can't predict you, they can't map you, they can't understand why it feels like the air itself is conspiring with you. Their fear is music, every blink of disbelief, every frozen smile, every dropped jaw, every hurried glance around the room as they try to find someone, anyone, who can stop you, and there is no one. The rules are meaningless now, only ink on paper that cannot hold against the storm you've unleashed. You don't break them for attention, for applause, or for revenge. You break them because someone has to show what the world looks like when you don't obey, when you refuse to kneel, when you decide that the game they call life is yours to rewrite, to remix, to turn inside out, until the very air smells different, until their faith in order is a joke whispered in the corridors, until the panic of the blind and stubborn becomes a playground for the ones who understand the true taste of freedom. Make the impossible look effortless. Oh, the sweetest trick in the world is convincing everyone that what you do is easy, that the mountains you climb, the fires you walk through, the walls you crash into are nothing to you. They watch, they gape, they whisper to one another, their eyes wide, their hearts racing, and they think it's magic, that you were born with it, that somehow the universe just bent to your will because you're special, Because you're lucky? Because maybe you've made a deal with something darker than themselves. But the truth is, it's not luck. It's precision. It's patience. It's chaos harnessed like a puppet on strings. And they can't see the strings. They can't imagine the storm under the calm, the fire behind the smile, the 1,000 tiny cuts and bruises they'll never notice because you've already moved past them, danced around them, made them irrelevant. They believe the impossible is impossible because they are trapped by fear, by doubt, by the chains of their own limitations. And you slip right through like smoke, like shadow, like the grin that spreads across a room when something breaks, when order collapses, when the predictable shatters into chaos. And they have no idea how you did it, no idea how effortless it looks until they feel the quake it leaves behind. Every step you take is a message, a whisper to the universe that it doesn't get to dictate terms, that the rules of probability, of logic, of what should happen are just suggestions for the timid, for the weak, for the ones too afraid to touch the dark and come out laughing. You move with a rhythm they can't hear, a strategy they can't map, a madness they can't tolerate because it isn't theirs. And the more impossible it seems, the more impossible it becomes for them to believe it is real, and that is your playground. You don't sweat, you don't stumble, you don't announce your arrival. You glide, you slip, you appear where you shouldn't, do what they said couldn't be done, and vanish before they can catch their breath. The impossible is only a mask, a costume worn by fear, and you strip it away with every step, every glance, every reckless choice that somehow lands with perfect chaos. People admire what they cannot touch, what they cannot understand, what humbles them and makes them question their own existence, and you. Oh, you feed on it. You feed on the shock, the awe, the slight twitch of disbelief when a whole system they trust collapses around them while you sit there, smiling, calm, untouched. And they swear to themselves they'll figure it out. They'll catch up. They'll copy it. But copying is for the dead, for the ordinary, for the ones too scared to risk it all on the impossible. You risk, you dive, you fall, you break the rules, you stretch the limits. You flirt with disaster like it's your lover. And suddenly, what was meant to crush everyone else is nothing more than a step, a flicker, a breath for you. And when they try to dissect it, analyze it, rationalize it, they fail because the impossible isn't a formula. It's a pulse, a scream, a laugh in the dark, a rhythm only someone who refuses to bow to certainty can hear. And they will never understand that effortless is not the absence of struggle. It's the mastery of it, the hiding of every cut, every bruise, every sleepless night behind a mask that tells the world you were always meant to do this, that you were always untouchable, untamed, unstoppable. And all the while, they are left staring at the chaos, wondering how someone could dance with it so freely, how someone could turn fear into art, how someone could make the impossible look like nothing at all. Silence the doubters with action, not words. Oh, the sweetest melody is watching their mouths flap endlessly, their eyes narrow, their whispers curl around corners like smoke, trying to poison the air with doubt. With fear, with the desperate hope that you'll stumble, that you'll falter, that you'll break under the weight of expectation. Because they cannot fathom someone who refuses to bow, who refuses to kneel, who refuses to beg for approval like they do. They are loud because they are afraid, because their world is made of contracts and agreements and polite smiles and tiny victories wrapped in paper. And you are loud in a different way. Not with sound, not with pleas, not with explanations that make sense to them, but with movement, with force, with chaos that cannot be contained or explained. And every step you take, every boundary you push, every impossible outcome you pull from the shadows is a dagger to their certainty. They call it arrogance. They call it madness. They call it reckless. And you call it truth. The only truth that matters. Words are empty vessels. They say things and think they hold power, But you know better. Power is silent until it erupts, quiet until it devastates, invisible until it reshapes the world. And that is how you deal with the doubters. You don't argue. You don't reason. You don't waste a breath trying to explain your brilliance to those who are too small to see it, too blind to witness it, too cowardly to risk it. You act, and in that acting, in that moving, in that breaking of expectation, they see it, they feel it. Their jaws drop, their hearts race. Their certainty crumbles like ash in the wind, and they have no words left because words could never match the reality you create. Every doubter, every critic, every smirk that tried to belittle you is rendered mute in the presence of what you've done. The world is chaotic enough without their noise, and you take that chaos and twist it into a mirror that shows them their own impotence, their own inability to step outside the prison of conformity they've built for themselves. Action is a language they understand only when it's too late, only when it's undeniable, only when it crashes over them like a wave they cannot fight. And oh, the look in their eyes when they realize it, when the truth of your movement hits them, when they see that the fire they tried to extinguish is not only burning, but consuming everything they thought was unshackable. It is intoxicating, it is sweet, it is the sound of the world laughing at their arrogance. They underestimate you because they cannot imagine someone who moves without fear, who smiles without permission, who acts without hesitation, and that is the advantage you hold. While they talk, you create. While they speculate, you destroy. While they plan, you execute. And the result is a symphony of disbelief, a testament to the power of doing over saying, a proof that the world bends to those who refuse to waste time trying to convince the blind to see. Every movement you make is deliberate, every decision a calculated chaos, every success a nail in the coffin of their doubt, and they cannot stop you because they are shackled by hesitation, by fear, by the need to explain everything before acting, while you understand instinct, impulse, and the thrill of uncertainty. And when the world looks at you and wonders how, they cannot articulate it because the language of action is louder than any argument, any lecture, any sermon they could preach. They are left gasping, staring at the impossible you've manifested while they flail in their tiny circles, repeating their doubts. But it falls on deaf ears because action doesn't negotiate, action doesn't beg, action doesn't seek validation. It commands, it conquers, it reshapes reality, and in that reshaping, the doubters are silenced not by cruelty, not by confrontation, not by malice, but by the undeniable truth that you move. You act, you do what they only dream of doing, and that in itself is a message they cannot refute, a reality they cannot escape, a laughter in the dark that echoes louder than their endless chatter. And it is intoxicating, it is chaotic, it is perfection. Turn chaos into your advantage. Oh, chaos is the sweetest playground of all, isn't it? They fear it. They tremble at the sound of it. They clutch their little rules and spreadsheets and safety nets as if they could cage the storm. And you step right into it, laughing as the world shatters around you. They panic, they scream, they stumble, they try to understand. And all the while you see the rhythm, the pattern hidden in the madness, the cracks and fissures that give you the power no one else dares to touch. Chaos is freedom. Chaos is clarity. Chaos is the knife hidden in the dark that cuts through their arrogance and exposes the hollow core of their certainty. They think order is safety, structure is strength, predictability is power, and you know better. You know that the real power comes from seeing what others cannot see, from moving when everyone else is frozen, from smiling when the world burns. While they cling to walls, you fly through the smoke. You dance on the edge of disaster. You turn every collapse into a ladder, every explosion into a spotlight, every setback into a setup that only you understand. They call it luck. They call it madness. They call it reckless. And you call it opportunity. Every crisis, every mistake, every unexpected turn is a gift wrapped in fear, a chance to rewrite the rules, a moment to rise when everyone else falls, and you snatch it like a thief in the night, leaving the world wondering what just happened, why the floor beneath their feet no longer exists, why the empire they built on order now trembles under a grin and a plan they never saw coming. Chaos is a mirror, a weapon, a language, and you speak it fluently, while they babble in polite sentences, trying to analyze what cannot be explained, trying to control what cannot be contained. Every shattered expectation, every broken assumption, every trembling hand around a boardroom table is a symphony to you. A proof that fear is useless, that hesitation is fatal, that the world belongs to those who dare to dance in the storm instead of hiding from it. And oh, the fun of it, turning their panic into performance, their confusion into currency, their desperation into opportunity, reshaping the disaster they feared into a masterpiece of your own making, twisting the chaos into a canvas where only you paint the picture. People think chaos is random, but you know it is deliberate. It is strategic. It is the pulse of the world beating in your favor, if you have the courage to follow it, if you have the mind to bend it, if you have the madness to embrace it. They try to push against it, to contain it, to tame it, but chaos bows only to those who understand it, only to those who wield it without fear, only to those who see the beauty in destruction, the potential in collapse, the laughter in the dark when everything else falls apart. And you do not wait for permission. You do not ask for consent. You do not pause for approval. You move. You strike, you conquer. You twist every misstep, every accident, every breakdown into a weapon that elevates you, that shakes the world, that leaves everyone else frozen in awe and terror, unable to touch what they cannot comprehend, unable to stop what they cannot predict, unable to survive what you turn into opportunity. And it is intoxicating, it is chaotic, it is delicious. Leave the giants frozen in disbelief? Oh, how delicious it is to watch those so-called titans, those kings of their little castles, those emperors of fragile empires, gape like children at a magic trick they cannot understand, at a reality that refuses to bend to their assumptions, at a truth they never even considered. They move through the world with confidence, with titles, with power padded by arrogance. And they believe that nothing can touch them, because they built their walls so high, because they cultivated their networks, because they learned the rules, and they never imagined anyone would break them. And then you come along, smiling quietly in the shadows, and everything changes. One move, one choice, one flick of the wrist, and suddenly the ground beneath them is uncertain. The maps they trusted are useless. The calculations they depended on are meaningless, and their faces, oh their faces, freeze as the impossible happens right before their eyes, unfolding with a precision that seems effortless. Like the world itself bends to your will, while they clutch at the edges of their kingdoms in disbelief. You do not seek their attention. You do not crave their approval. You do not beg to be seen. You simply exist, a force outside their comprehension, and the shock in their eyes is the sweetest applause, the only validation you require, the only music worth listening to in a world of timid whispers and polite clapping. They underestimated you, because they are giants only in the ways they understand, only in the dimensions they control, only in the playgrounds they built to keep themselves safe. And you are chaos incarnate, unpredictable, unstoppable, unbound. A shadow that moves where they cannot follow, a spark in a dark room they cannot light, a storm they never saw coming. Every glance they throw your way is a mixture of fear, envy, confusion, and denial, and you feed on it. You drink it in like wine, because their disbelief is proof that you exist outside their cages, outside their rules, outside their fragile understanding of reality. And the more they freeze, the more you move, the more you bend, the more you redefine the game, until they can no longer remember the shape of their world before you arrived. It is intoxicating, this power to render the mighty impotent, to take the ones who thought themselves untouchable, and show them how small, how fragile, How laughably human they are in the presence of someone who does not bow, who does not fear, who does not negotiate with the predictable. They try to recover. They try to speak. They try to regain their composure. But it is too late. You have rewritten the rules, remade the map, reconstructed the landscape, and they are left staring at the consequences of their assumptions, frozen in disbelief, trapped in the moment where they realize that control is an illusion, power is fleeting, and the world bends only for those brave enough to break the mold. And you smile, because you know the truth they will never admit, that their stature, their titles, their networks, their legacies, all of it crumbles when faced with someone who moves without fear, who laughs in the dark, who dances through chaos as if the world itself were a playground built for them alone. Every hesitation they have, every blink of surprise, every attempt to rationalize what they cannot understand, is a dagger to their certainty, a symphony of their weakness, a celebration of your freedom, and you wield it with precision, with patience, with the subtlety of a storm quietly brewing before it explodes, leaving nothing untouched, leaving everyone guessing, leaving the giants paralyzed by their own inability to adapt. And in that paralysis, in that frozen stare, in that moment of complete and utter disbelief, you find your canvas, your audience, your affirmation, your theater, and you paint with chaos, with cunning, with madness, until even the strongest, the richest, the most untouchable titans are left staring at you, unsure whether they are witnessing brilliance or insanity, triumph or disaster. And it is perfect, it is exquisite, it is intoxicating, it is everything. Strike when no one is watching. Oh, the sweetest, deadliest thrill is moving through the world like a shadow, slipping past their eyes while they are busy blinking, busy breathing, busy thinking the universe revolves around their fragile expectations. And then, bam, you appear unseen, unheard, unstoppable. And suddenly everything they relied on trembles like a house of cards in a storm. They think power is loud, that presence is obvious, that greatness must announce itself with drums and trumpets and shining banners, and you know better. You know that the real power, the kind that shakes bones and bends empires, hides in the silence, in the dark corners, in the moments they dismiss as nothing. You wait, you watch. You learn their rhythms, their patterns, their little ticks that give them away, the blind spots they never notice because they are too busy staring at themselves, too busy performing for the world, too busy pretending they are in control. And then, when the moment is perfect, when the universe aligns with your pulse, when chaos whispers your name, you strike and the world cannot respond in time because they never saw it coming. Timing, patience, calculation, intuition, madness all mixed into a cocktail that tastes of fear and exhilaration, and you drink it down like it was meant to be yours alone. They never notice the build-up, the preparation, the 1,000 invisible steps that led to the moment, when everything cracks open, when the ground shifts, when their power is revealed to be a joke, a fragile illusion, a shadow of what they believed it was, and you are laughing quietly in the corner, because they cannot understand that the strike is not about noise. It is about precision, about leaving them gasping, about showing them that attention is a trap, that visibility is a weakness, that those who wait, who observe, who plan in silence, are the ones who truly move the world. And oh, the fun of watching them scramble, trying to comprehend, trying to repair, trying to speak while the reality you've created unfolds like a puppet show they cannot control, they cannot stop, they cannot even touch, because they were looking the wrong way, trusting the wrong signals, blinded by the idea that the obvious is all there is. And you are the invisible hand in their nightmare, the ghost in their machine, the smile in the dark that they cannot chase, cannot understand, cannot predict. You don't strike for recognition. You don't strike for applause. You don't strike to impress. No, that is for the weak, the desperate to be seen. But you strike because it is the most efficient, the most effective, the most devastating method of creating change, of bending reality, of asserting that you move outside the rules that bind everyone else. And the beauty is that while they panic, while they flail, while they stare, you are already gone, already moving to the next moment, already weaving the chaos that will leave them scrambling to catch up, always one step behind, always in disbelief, always frozen in the realization that someone somewhere is moving with a freedom they cannot imagine. And the strike itself, oh, the strike, it is not violent for the sake of violence. It is surgical, elegant, cruelly poetic, a message to anyone watching that power does not announce itself. It manifests silently, it erupts invisibly. It lands when the world is asleep, when attention is elsewhere, when vulnerability is at its peak. And you are the master of that moment, the composer of the chaos, the unseen storm that leaves them stunned, and unsure whether what happened was brilliance, insanity, luck, or a combination of all three. And it doesn't matter to them, because the effect is irreversible. The damage is done, the disbelief is eternal, and you move on, unseen, smiling, knowing that the world is yours to manipulate, yours to conquer, yours to enjoy in the silence where no one can touch you, no one can stop you, no one can even anticipate the next strike. And that is freedom, that is chaos, that is power, that is everything. Redefine the game on your own terms. Oh, the sweetest madness is looking at the rules everyone else worships, the boundaries they think are sacred, the lines they cannot cross, and laughing quietly because you know the game is theirs only if you let it be, only if you play by their script, only if you step into their cage and dance like they tell you to. But you don't play by anyone's rules. You don't follow their map. You tear it apart, shred it into pieces, and scatter it to the wind while you walk through the chaos with a grin that says everything and nothing, because the world has always assumed the game is fixed, predictable, fair, and suddenly you appear, flipping the board, rewriting the instructions, reshuffling the pieces, and no one knows what just happened. They look at you with wide eyes, their mouths moving in disbelief, their brains scrambling to find logic, trying to convince themselves that there is a method, that there is a reason, that somehow the universe will bend back into the shape they expected. And you know that there is no going back, that the shape of the world has changed, that the game is yours now to define, to twist, to manipulate, to play in ways that make them shiver in awe and fear. And you do it with a calm that belies the storm inside. The careful calculation, the hidden chaos, the thrill of moving where no one dared to step before. They fear what they cannot control, what they cannot predict, what refuses to obey, and that is your advantage. You step outside the arena they built, outside the comfort of rules, outside the corridors of polite strategy, and suddenly the familiar is alien, the expected is shattered, and the mighty are left grasping at air as you carve your own path. Every choice you make, every move you execute, every decision you take is a defiance, a challenge, a whisper in the dark that says, I do not bend, I do not conform, I do not obey. And the beauty of it is that in redefining the game, you don't just win. You transform the way the world sees what is possible, the way they measure power, the way they believe success can be achieved, because they assumed the rules were eternal, immutable, sacred, and you show them that rules are nothing but illusions, that limits are chains, and that true freedom, true strength, true brilliance lies in creating your own path and daring anyone to stop you. And oh, the delight of watching them scramble, the confusion in their eyes, the hesitation in their hearts, the fear in their voices as they try to react to a world they cannot comprehend, a world that no longer answers to them, but to your vision, your chaos, your madness. They will call you reckless, arrogant, insane, and perhaps you are all of those things, and perhaps that is exactly what makes you unstoppable, because they are trapped by their caution, by their rules, by their fear of being wrong, and you move beyond wrong and right, beyond predictable and safe, beyond their expectations. And suddenly what they thought was the pinnacle of control is nothing compared to the playground you've created from the wreckage of their certainty. And it is intoxicating, it is thrilling, it is power, it is liberation, it is the smile in the dark that spreads wider than any applause, that echoes longer than any cheer, that leaves the world trembling in the understanding that someone unafraid, someone untamed, someone untouchable, has redefined everything, has turned chaos into strategy, fear into advantage, rules into toys, and left the giants and kings and experts and critics staring at you in awe, in disbelief, in terror, because the game has changed and it is no longer theirs, it is yours, and every step, every laugh, every calculated risk is a message they cannot ignore, a statement that nothing is fixed, nothing is sacred, nothing is safe, and if they want to survive in the world you've reshaped, they will have to start thinking in ways they never imagined, acting in ways they never dared, and seeing in ways they never learned. Because you have defined the game. You have broken it, you have rebuilt it, and in the ruins of their certainty, your chaos reigns supreme.